Hi everyone, welcome back. One common problem in Google Sheets is not just moving data, but knowing when to move it. Sometimes, data doesn't need to be transferred immediately. Instead, you might want to back it up at the end of the day, or maybe once a week, or even once a month. The usual approach is manual. You remember to copy the data, paste it somewhere else, and hope you don't forget. But in reality, people forget. And when that happens, backups become inconsistent. In this video, I'll show you a simple way to automatically back up your data to another table based on a schedule. This setup is useful when you want to keep a separate backup table without interfering with your main data. For example, you might want a weekly snapshot of your data or a monthly archive for reporting. Instead of doing it manually, we can let the system handle it for us. This is the main table, where the data is updated regularly. And this is the backup table, where we want to store copies of that data. The goal is simple. At a specific time, the system will take data from the main table and create new rows in the backup table. To make this work, we'll use AppSheet connected to Google Sheets. We're not building anything complex here, just a simple automation that runs on a schedule. Instead of triggering an action manually, we'll use a scheduled process. At a defined time, the system will run automatically, loop through the data, and create new rows in another table. So this is different from the previous video, where the action was triggered by a button. First, we create an action that adds a new row to another table. The action type is add a new row to another table using values from this row. Then we map the columns, so the correct data is copied into the backup table. Next, we create an automation using a bot. The event type is scheduled, which means it runs at a specific time. You can set it to run daily, weekly, or monthly, depending on your needs. We also need to define which rows should be processed. In most cases, you can select all rows or apply a simple filter if needed. In this example, we will keep it simple by applying a filter and processing only specific rows. Then we define a process that runs the action we created earlier. Once everything is set up, the system will run automatically based on the schedule. You don't need to click anything, and you don't need to remember anything. At the scheduled time, new rows will be created in the backup table. One thing to keep in mind is duplication. If the process runs multiple times, it will create multiple copies of the same data. So depending on your use case, you may want to add conditions or tracking logic. This is a simple way to automate data backups in Google Sheets. Instead of relying on manual steps, you let the system run on a schedule. In the next video, we'll take this one step further and trigger backups based on a specific condition, not just time. If you work with data regularly, this kind of setup can save a lot of time and reduce mistakes. We'd like to know how this system could be adapted to your own operational process. Please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.